Good day, everyone, and welcome back to the Corner of Remnant. I'm your host, Larissa. I'm joined by co-host Emperial Dawn.
Wait, still messing with settings. Wait, okay. Hi, everyone. Sorry about that.
And today we are discussing Chapter 6 of RWBY Volume 8, which is titled Midnight. And we're hopefully going to wrap this up within the hour, because I've got a 12-hour cherry stream after this, but that's okay. There's a lot to discuss in this episode as well.
Yes, quick note. They've for 6 episodes in a row now, they've started off with a black fading screen, and every episode has been one word, just making sure that that trend keeps happening.
Yeah, it seems to be. I don't know if they've yet, I forgot to ask you before we switched over about Chapter 7 yet.
I'm just looking, actually looking into that as you mentioned it, nothing at the moment, but if it's anything like last stream, literally the second we went offline last time, they revealed the title and the episode length and info and stuff. I love that the description for this episode is just it's time. That's it. Which is appropriate on many levels.
They probably would have named the episode that if they weren't sticking to one word titles.
Probably that sounds about right.
Yes, it was a really good episode. Overall, I really enjoyed it. And I'm really now very nervous for the mid-season finale. It looks like we're actually going to get a proper mid-season finale as well, unlike last year where it was a bit meh. So that's exciting. And also because we are leading towards a break as well. So I think they're going to kick it off with a bang and end it on a really horrible cliffhanger. And then we're going to have to wait 7 weeks, I think it is, until we get the 100th episode, Chapter 8.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, I assumed a lot of this wasn't planned, maybe it was, but regardless, it's definitely seems to be coming at a point. Of course, we're saying that ahead of time, we don't really know, but, we'll assume we're going to get some team, RWBY and her team fighting in the streets of Atlas, and assumingly get the Penny moment, whatever that happens being, and then maybe some Cinder stuff again as well. Well, we might wait till we get back from the break before we address that stuff again. We'll have to see. And obviously the prison stuff, we might finally get out of that situation. Yes. Maybe. Which probably, if we do see Cinder, it'll probably be
breaking what's
prison
out.
Situation.
Unless they've already, I don't know. Yeah, what's going to happen with regards to that too?
Yeah. Speaking of which, I was meant to message you throughout the week, but are you happy that we finally saw the streets of Atlas?
Yes.
In this episode? Finally saw street view of Atlas.
It was funny because in my reaction, the first part to me seemed to be set possibly in Mistral, and then I didn't really say anything about the second part, but the second, like where the hotel was, definitely was Atlas, but I didn't really mention it or my reaction. But yeah, it was really good actually to see what appeared to be Atlas and Streets of Atlas. And,
I mean, it took me a little bit too, because I'd always theorized that Atlas didn't have a ground level. That was kind of just more like a bunch of skyscrapers with public transport kind of connecting them all, kind of bridges and walkways and kind of things, rather than an actual ground level. But they also seem to have farmland.
Yes,
which again makes sense. Like I would mention the artificial climate and food supplies and all that stuff. So
yeah, it was actually really good to see that view.
It makes sense that they're actually very self-efficient, apart from dust being the one thing they're not self-efficient on.
It was interesting because like previously we've just seen front-on views of Atlas. This was actually the first time we've had a proper good sort of top-down view of Atlas, where we can see all the farmland and the city of Atlas. So the actual proper streets and cities of Atlas, as well as the academy, of course, which was in the middle. Yeah,
the only time we had seen it otherwise was from Penny's perspective, last episode 5. But I don't think it was quite clear enough.
It wasn't. It was quite a fair way up and fair distance away from it. But this was a really good view of that, and just seeing the whale land on the farmland on the actual Atlas. I was just like, shit, the whale has landed. I saw a lot of people complaining why the ship's in fire on the whale. I don't know, but yeah.
What was that? Sorry, I missed that.
A lot of people were commenting, asking why the military, the ships, didn't fire on the actual whale. Like, they did try and fire on some of the Grimm, but not the actual whale itself. But, meh. I don't think it would have done anything.
I guess that's one of those things
it.
where if you didn't think about it at the time, it's not going to bother you in hindsight, kind of thing. Yeah, it's not really.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean,
I saw some people asking, why didn't it fire on the whale? I'm like,
that's a fair point, but I mean, at the same time, it's not like. Yeah, I doubt it really would have done anything.
I doubt it would have done anything. It wouldn't have stopped the whale actually landing.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I know it's frustrating for people, but and the RWBY team mentioned it before. If something's obvious or it wouldn't matter, that's why they didn't show it. They've always been honest about that. They're not going to waste time on showing something is ineffective or doesn't work. It's it's like when it's like, oh, why didn't they use their skulls? Like one of the points I guess I thought of over the past week was during the broadcast why hadn't the team like the Yang's team call for help or call for like at that point. But I guess they were just watching the broadcast like everyone else, so they didn't really think too much of it. And also they didn't know it was going to be a limited time.
They didn't realize Amity was going to go down or out of range either. So that's what, like they said, why did the broadcast stop? Sort of
and
thing.
also, the broadcast that the ASOP picked up might have been recorded at that time or not.
Yeah,
and,
I think.
Well, I assume it was John at the time saying it. It could have been. It could have been a delayed broadcast from the area.
The other thing I noticed during a rewatch of the episode 2 is that when the whale lands and opens its mouth and all the green come out, in the background you can see these floating jellyfish type creatures. Yeah, I hadn't noticed them before till that point when I was they'd been in a lot of background scenes and they were kind of blurry. You couldn't quite make out what they were. But this was the first year where we saw the actual kind of evolved seer or whatever you'd want to call it. Actual floating jellyfish grim-like thing, and they look terrifying. They're massive too by the looks of it. So it really is one of those things where you just look at like how are we going to win this? Assumingly we're not going to win Atlas. But you think I don't know, do our heroes need a bit of a boost? Do we need a bit more? Can we in the end at this point looking at it, can we actually is there any reasonable, understandable chance that we can win this? Yeah.
And, right now it doesn't feel like it, and that's probably the point. That's probably intense.
It's meant to feel like there's no way they can win this.
But I do hope. I am very much hoping this episode we get to see some urgency from the Mana team. We get them on the streets of Atlas fighting these Grim. That's my assumption.
Yeah.
Just because, again, I'm not the kind of person to complain about it, but I'll bring it up.
I'm hoping even though it's very dark, but I hope we actually get to see Grim attacking civilians, because we didn't really see it back in the Fall of Beacon. We saw a little bit, but it wasn't really like shown as much. And the show's developed so much now, much more darker now, that I definitely think we will get to see that in Atlas.
We did get a bit of that in Mantle, but I hear
Mantle.
Heroes did a good job keeping them at bay. But we at least saw like civilians and how they were reacting to everything and stuff.
Yeah,
we didn't get to see any maulings or anything. We actually did see a bit of that in Vale at the festival ground.
It wasn't really like you get to see some of the people getting carried away by the Grim, but you didn't really see anything like in your face of them being killed and stuff. No. So I think it will be interesting if they do that. Which I think there's a good possibility they will, because like I said, the show's definitely gotten darker and it's grown a lot more since the Fall of Beacon to the point now. I think they could do that.
Yeah, it is always interesting to me when I see comments of people saying that they aren't going to continue with RWBY because it's gotten too dark. and it's funny. I get where the show comes from, especially maybe down the show. Chibi or something like, again, I get, especially if, these people could be quite young. I don't know, obviously.
That's possible.
But it is quite funny because obviously, like, there are so many shows out there that are far darker than RWBY. But at the same time, RWBY also, at least in my mind, has taken one of the more darker turns in terms of where it starts, where it is now. It has evolved quite a bit.
Yeah. There are different
shows that are like that.
Yeah, there's other animes and shows out there which are very much slice of life, happy, things, and there's a lot of those out there. RWBY was never meant to be, and I just
they did a good job. They did such a good job of it at the time.
Yeah.
Episodes, at least volumes 2 and 3. that I think a lot of people clung on to that, even though what we are doing now is kind of the end game, what the show was always meant to evolve into. But obviously with Volume 4 and Volume 5 didn't quite execute it as well as they did unintentionally for Volumes like 2 and 3, where they kind of did that too good compared to what they actually had planned for the show.
It sort of lulled everyone to a sense of like security, like this is all happy and RWBY is really great and we're going to get the fighting festival and they're going to finish speaking and graduate as huntresses, and no. Nope.
But of course we also come from a biased perspective because obviously our first live volume was Volume 4.
Yeah, it was,
so, we were already past, we already been there, watched that. We want the new stuff. So for us, we had that biased opinion going into Volume 4, was a lot of people were probably very anxious going into Volume 4, seeing how different it was going to be from 3, and it was very different.
It was very different, and hey, Mikey, how are you?
One of my favorite details at the start of the episode, episode 6, was the rooster. I can't remember what you call them. That old school at this point, the wind.
Oh, the wind. Oh yeah, I forgot what it's called too. But I know what you mean. The rooster on the wind turbine. That's kind of bad. It's kind of bad. I can't think of.
Oh
my god, I'm mind blank. But yes, I know what you're referring to.
It's funny because my first viewing, I saw that he did the shot of it. And I'm kind of like, I wonder if that was something. And I go back and watch it. I'm like, it's just the Rooster Teeth from the Rooster Teeth logo. Haha, funny.
I didn't even really clue on about that with the rooster. Good point. I didn't even notice. I had to rewatch it, actually stare at that.
I thought it was the same silhouette you just see in the Rooster Teeth logo.
Yeah, that wouldn't have surprised me. It was a good point for them to put a little Easter egg like that in there. So but well, starting from the start of the episode onwards, so we do start with Cinder's backstory as we were suspecting. And we didn't get really to know a lot about this sort of early setting here before she gets to the hotel. But
mostly she was just seemingly just like, a bunch of other kids, whether she was, orphaned or whether those were her siblings, we not really sure, but she seemingly was like a slave trade, seemingly.
Yeah. It gave me orphanage vibes, but I wasn't sure. But yeah, either way, she, right from the start, and we know she was 10 years old around this time as well, that she was not treated fairly, and she was basically treated as a servant, even before she got to the hotel. And I think that's what this scene was mainly just showing, the fact that's how things were before she even got to the hotel and was really a slave.
Yeah, I mean, what I find quite interesting too, because you look at this story and, everything we've been told about Remnant, and, unfortunately we get told a lot and not see a lot in some cases. But it's interesting to me because you look at the story and you kind of think to yourself, shouldn't Cinder be a fawness, just in terms of like a story-writing perspective.
Yeah.
And I quite like the juxtaposition of that's what kind of makes her character have that more impact. Like she isn't a fawness. Like this is
she isn't
even rare amongst amongst fawness slavery is common knowledge, and it's everyone and a lot of people, especially in Atlas, do it, and it's not really that big of a deal as much as it should be. So to see that kind of like a human slave, I think brings that impact of like this feels more significant than it would have been otherwise.
Well, I also think too, she came from a background where it looks like she was an orphan from from a poor family, or working for sort of a poor family. Like she was treated like dirt. And when the madame lady ends up acquiring her for the hotel, she continues that, treats her like dirt. She's lower than them. She's a peasant, I guess, an orphan. Commoner, dirt, basically. So that to me, from slavery points of view too.
Don't disagree, and obviously I'm not trying to tone down the bad treatment that's got, but pardon me.
It shouldn't be an excuse, but that to me is where I sort of got the feeling.
I'm just saying, like it seemingly was, at least to begin with, slightly better. Like she was at least willing to give her food. She was at least
true. Yes, yeah. Yeah.
Well, one thing I didn't notice until the very end of the episode when they were showing the concept slides, that back room was a bedroom. I never noticed the bed. I never noticed that was like where she was training with Rhodes was like her room.
Yeah.
Which again makes sense because I'm thinking to myself throughout the episode,
it's
how
like
are they
a
not
storage room sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. After all these years, how they're not getting caught or anything like that.
Yeah.
But if it's a bedroom, I can kind of I understand that. I think that's much more believable. That they're not barging in on a bedroom or anything like that, even if it's just a storeroom.
Yeah, it looked like a basement or storeroom, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I was pleasantly surprised when she was at least given food and she was at least, you know, seemingly not berated too much for like, you know, taking food if like people didn't want it. Like she was like they were happy to give her scraps at least, you know. Just
well, that's the thing. They wanted her as a servant, so they had to feed her and they had to clothe her and that sort of thing. They still treated her as beneath them.
I quite like the juxtaposition too of her like all white outfit compared to what she is. I quite like that. It was interesting too. The very interesting detail I'm curious about is that the only color distinction she had initially was green. She had a green shirt, and the rest was white and a brown apron. So I'm just curious the green, if that has any relation to obviously her feather pendant, which she's had throughout all of her designs, which that also ties into the necklace she had as well. So I'm just curious what of Cinderella, I guess, is green. I guess like glass and marble is typically a green association.
Possibly. I liked how dirty that outfit looked too when she first arrived at the hotel. I liked how they made it look really grubby.
Yes. Yeah. Like the scuffs and scars and stuff she had. It was a lot of, and even her hair, very messy.
I really liked her hair too. Later when she's a bit more grown up, I like how the style of her hair.
That like teenage design.
Yeah, well there you go. It's on the overlay.
Loved it so much.
And the necklace too with electricity dust. Again, I didn't mention that in my reaction, but I really liked that application with dust, which we haven't seen before. I'm really curious if Cinder has a particular affinity either negatively or positively towards electricity dust in the modern sense, because obviously we've never like that is, I mean, I guess when you think about it, it's the only dust type we haven't, or the only magic element we haven't really seen her use. Yeah. We've seen her use earth, we've seen her use fire, we've seen her use ice. Granted, mostly fire, but we have seen her use ice and rock. Yeah. Both, I think, in the Raven fight are the only times she used those. But interesting, we've never seen her use electricity, so I wonder if that's just a personal affliction she doesn't want to use. Makes sense. It definitely makes sense why she wouldn't want to use it. How she would react
if she was attacked by electricity? Would she be resistant, or would she be more like PTSD kind of reactive to it? So I'm curious if that gets played in any future fights Cinder has.
It's definitely worth watching, Mikey, though we are a bit biased because we love the show. Well, here's the link if you ever did want to have a look at it. I'm pretty sure that link still works, actually. I'll just double check it. Yes, it does. It will go straight to volume 8 on my screen, but yeah, if you did ever want to bookmark it and check it out later.
Yeah, obviously we finally got introduced to the stepsisters.
Yes.
Very infamous of the Cinderella stories. Voice acted by Amelie, who is a musician. And in the RWBY community has done a few RWBY covers as of late. She's done Red Like Roses, Mirror Mirror, and Red
That's
Like Roses.
Where I knew her from. I thought she was a voice actress. Oh god, I'm gonna get so many comments on my reaction video. I got so many things wrong.
I believe she has done voice acting before.
That's where I knew her name from, because I thought, she's a famous voice actor. That's how I know her name. But no, I know her name for her covers because
she's YouTube. So she's one of those. There's a few of them now. Musicians who do cover stuff who I think work in association with Funimation. Yeah. A lot of musicians on YouTube who do covers of anime stuff can get picked up for voice acting gigs and stuff, like Christina V, who does Robin. I don't believe started on YouTube, but also does YouTube covers as well. My personal favorite, Nate Wants to Battle, who hasn't done RWBY stuff and hasn't done stuff with Rooster Teeth, but I'm
really wanting to. Yes.
He's done a few voice acting roles, but he got the gig to do the Dragon Ball Super English cover.
Oh right,
YouTube stuff, and like that's
insane. So cool. Yeah.
He also does like the modern Beyblade anime. He does the opening for that, and just like to go from like YouTube to do that is just awesome. I love those stories.
And there's Caleb Hiles. He did of course Hero.
There you go. That's the big.
That's that one.
He did the RWBY covers. He got
He
contacted.
did the RWBY covers. Yeah.
Basically got into an official song.
Yeah, I love Hero. It's an awesome song.
And that's the thing. Like I would love if Christina V was a part of a Robin song.
Yeah. Well, maybe.
Kind of thing.
Possibility of that happening.
I mean, obviously we got I hate that I can't remember her name, but Elm's voice actress.
Oh, Elms, yes.
In The War, She's one of the voices in the War song, and Erin Riley, who also works in that, did a lot of RWBY covers. I hadn't heard of her before she was in RWBY, but apparently she was well known for doing a lot of acoustic covers.
Okay.
Of the show. I don't believe she's currently doing anything right now. I think she's kind of gone dark these days.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I love hearing her in that as well. And then also we have Adriana, who I believe was it Adriana? I can't remember.
Yes,
in Nevermore and in War as well.
Yeah.
So I love that they're getting more into RWBY, into the music and stuff. And keep saying that. Obviously, one of or the still unsure songs in this episode was sung by OK Goodnight.
Yes.
Just Casey Lee Williams' personal band.
Yeah, so the song in the fight scene in the backstory, that's Awake by Goodnight and OK Goodnight. And it's really grown on me. At first I was a little, I loved it in the episode, but when I listened to the song standalone, I'm like, this is a little, but it's really grown on me now. I really love the song.
Yeah,
and it's so good in the episode. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's so good.
It just fits so well.
It felt to me very Nate Wants to Battle. Also like he does like some of his Zelda covers have a very similar vibe. I used actually one in a speed art that's coming up. They'll be posted after this posted publicly after this stream goes down for Rhodes, who I drew just the other day.
He's on the overlay. Well, not right now, but yeah, he will be.
Yeah, he'll be shot.
It's rotating between the three.
But, yeah, I mean, because again, I felt such an OK Goodnight influence in the intro, and I still don't know if that's true at all. But just to actually then the kind of irony of them to show up later in the volume, I felt was quite poetic. Whether I'm right or wrong.
Well, there's a reference to OK Goodnight in Celebrate, which is from Volume 7.
That is true as well.
It's actually, there's in one of the lyrics to say it's time to say okay, good night. Yeah. So I thought I like that little reference there. But actually to get a non-RWBY song in a RWBY episode, it was great. And of course it's Casey's band, and I'm sure I've seen already a lot of videos popping up about Awake. So it's really good that people looking up their music.
It's cool too that you mentioned the Volume 7 song, obviously, because we had a similar question in volume 7 episode 5, where we had Celebrate at the start of the episode, and then we had
Let's Get Real,
and for the longest time we assumed they were just
two songs. Yeah, well, I mean, one song, 2 parts of one song. 2
parts of the one song. At least I did at the very least, and then
I did.
I'm kind of looking at this episode and thinking, now I'm not sure. Because obviously we were wrong that time.
But this was definitely Awake from OK Goodnight. So whereas there was
at least got confirmation, that
was definitely Awake.
That itself is a song, but I'm just saying it would not surprise me if the first song we heard just to mess with me was actually it's all the same song.
I don't think so in this case, but you never know.
We're wrong last time. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that was true. Though, I remember when we watched the credits for Volume 7 and we saw Celebrate, Let's Get Real. Like, where's Let's Get Real from? But it's on the same episode.
Yeah, but we got very very obvious All Things Must Die vibes from the first part of the
I think some people are saying it was similar to Sacrifice as well. I haven't listened to Sacrifice.
I heard that. I definitely heard All Things Must Die.
All Things Must Die.
I hadn't heard the Sacrifice. I had heard it mentioned. I hadn't gone back and double checked myself.
I really love the lyrics in this, and it's just the very eerie sort of vibe of the song. I just loved it so much. It was really good. This whole part, another thing I want to mention too, because I forgot about it, but when we'll talk about the intro and we see that part with Cinder there, and she grabs her arm in pain, her grim arm, and you see the electricity sort of light behind her, so that was definitely a reference to her backstory. Yeah, because you see her when she walks past and she grabs her grim arm in pain, and there's like electricity, like the same what we saw from the backstory. Yeah. And also when in this episode when Salem is not really torturing her but punishing her a bit, for disobeying her, and you see sort of like the flashback of her being sort of tortured back when she was a kid working at this hotel. So I thought that was really cool to tie in with the intro. As I always thought it was a bit odd in the intro when Cinder walks past and then grabs her arm in pain, but it makes sense now. It's
still one of those things where it just looks a bit quirky, for sure.
But it makes sense.
It makes sense. The meaning of it all, 100%. I remember thinking when I was watching the episode, and we saw the sisters' designs.
Yes.
I'm not drawing those because that's too much hair.
I like them. I thought they were really good. They gave me a very 50s, 60s vibe, retro vibe, but I really liked it.
I hadn't really considered what Atlas kind of was historically and visually compared to Atwell, and then I kind of thought it makes sense that it's very Victorian, very Industrial Revolution, because this is the equivalent to that in this world. It's the country that kind of advanced the fastest. So the fact that it has this kind of, especially with the stepsisters, it seemed to have like a very kind of Industrial Revolution Victorian vibe. Obviously modern flair, of course. It was so funny. I looked at them and I just imagined that's something like Casey would post on her Instagram. High-waisted pants. It's just like something so like she'd wear.
Yeah,
that's the media vibes that I got initially.
They also remind me of the twins from the Yellow trailer originally too.
Yeah, that's true as well. Yeah, I didn't really.
No, I thought of them because these two, even though they're obviously different ages, but they look like twins because they're so alike. Yeah. But yeah, it just reminded me of the. No, but
like that's a fair point. Like I kind of assumed they were twins or some sort.
Well, I believe one looks older than the other, but
I could be wrong.
One's slightly taller.
Aren't there in the Cinderella story? I'm trying to think in the Cinderella story. Isn't there a pair of twins and then a third sister, and then Cinderella?
No, I didn't think so. I thought it was always the two stepsisters.
I thought there were. Well, there were three, and two of them were twins.
So.
It could have been one movie I saw of a Cinderella.
There's a few different versions, and I believe the original Cinderella story too is Cinderella actually does kill the stepsisters and the woman.
Yeah, it's one of those
original
things
Grimm tale.
The Brothers Grimm were a lot darker than Disney. And the way Disney chooses to tell its stories.
So in the Disney version of Cinderella, definitely two sisters.
Okay.
And they're very different, like different coloured hair and stuff. I'm not sure if they were twins, but they're definitely, not alike. Anastasia and Drasilia. Oh, here we go. Someone's asking if they're twins. No, they're not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so one's older than the other.
I mean, obviously we would look at all this and a lot of, and you'd think that, sure, a lot of this was pretty obvious. A lot of this is stuff that we kind of assumed and all that stuff. But I personally, again, sometimes predictability is not a bad thing. Sometimes
I enjoyed it.
It's a good thing. I loved it. I really, really loved it.
I love the music. I remember you messaged me about the score at the start of the hotel. So
that was something I picked up on immediately. I couldn't remember if it was at first, when Cinta first enters the Glass Unicorn, which it took me way too long to read that. It took me like
what was it called?
The Glass Unicorn. That was the hotel.
Glass Unicorn. No, I missed that. I couldn't read it. And I haven't gone back.
I kept looking at it over and over again for like 3 days, and I couldn't make it out. And I finally
the Glass Unicorn. It's interesting.
The Glass Unicorn.
Right. But it did have glass statues of Grimm inside too, which was kind of cool.
Yeah. When she first walks in there, you hear this score, and initially I thought it was the Volume 4 score of the after party.
Yes.
And I think that might be used somewhere in this episode because it definitely makes sense in my head now. But it was actually when Cinda was first walking into the hotel, the score that played was the same score, or at least a remix score of when Cinda walked into the ball in Volume 2.
Yes, yeah, I thought it was from that.
It was a beautiful throwback.
Yeah, I love the very classic sort of upper class vibe the whole hotel gave as well. Even though there was a lot of huntsmen and huntresses as customers who weren't dressed, really fancy. The hotel itself had a very upper class fancy vibe, and I really liked that. That was cool. But of course, to the end of this part of the story, well, actually, before we get to that, we have like Rose teaching Cinda how
that's
to
what
fight.
I was going to say. As you mentioned, the huntsman, we obviously get introduced to, a character who's standing by and kind of looks, he kind of sees what's going on and kind of, is cautious and wary and stuff. And then, Cinda gets brazen. She looks impressed and all that. Oh, also too. So another thing we forgot to mention is that we actually see a lot in this episode of Cinda using a semblance.
Yes,
and and concrete her using a semblance and not like, is it semblance or is it maiden power? Because obviously way before that.
Yeah.
So we actually get to see her using her scorching caress and just superheating objects.
Yeah, which she later uses to be able to create glass and stuff like that.
Yeah, which also is one of the reasons why she might use glass, because I haven't seen a lot of people make the same assumption, and it doesn't make that much sense, really. But I prefer to look at it this way, where that I like Rhodes' semblance being like a glass or obsidian skin. A lot of people think it's metal.
So like
a lot of people,
it looks metal. Yeah, it looks metal.
To me, I like to think it's like a volcanic glass. It's like a tough glass skin, just to tie in Cinder a bit more and why she uses glass, and that kind of be like a unintentional kind of like ode to Rhodes. So I like to interpret his semblance as like a glass skin.
I like Rhodes. He's sort of portrayed as the Prince Charming of the story, even though it's no sort of romantic connection. There's more like a brotherly sisterly feel.
That's a great point. I never really considered what Rhodes
was. It was the Prince Charming who couldn't save her in the end, unfortunately. I think that's what Mum sort of referred to it when we watched it together. He wasn't able to... Yeah, Prince Charming wasn't able to save Cinderella.
That's a really good way to look at it, because I remember, like, you know, when we theorized Cinder's backstory, I never really considered a mental figure of any sort.
Yeah.
And then we saw it in this episode, and to interpret him as the Prince Charming of this story is actually a really good way to look at it.
Yeah, he was training her to be able to, leave this place and become a huntress or huntsman like him. But in the end, unfortunately, didn't happen.
It's interesting too. You don't often see a huntsman with two sets of weapons, so it is quite interesting. Like that. And I saw an amazing tweet earlier today. I didn't. I should have retweeted it. But it was basically just talking about how everyone's weapons in this world is like an extension of themselves.
Yeah.
It's a part of who they are. And the reason why Cinder never uses the same weapons or always uses different weapons is because she is broken. She doesn't have
that makes sense.
That's why she always uses different weapons. She's always making new things. She doesn't have that one tangible kind of like part of her. She's broken. And Cinder is very broken. That's kind of the whole point of her character. She's broken glass. It's bad luck. Oh god, I just realized the whole bad luck, broken glass mirror thing also ties into Cinder really well, because she fails all the time.
Fails all the time. That's a good point.
I saw a beautiful tweet of someone having the lyrics to Path of Isolation, referencing Cinder, and it worked really well.
Interesting. That would. Now that I think about it,
so
with Rhodes' death and everything, and
again, this episode did a lot. There's a bit of looking into Cinder, and again, I still think modern Cinder needs a bit of work.
Yes.
But I think this definitely redeemed me and just my not redeemed her, but redeemed my interest in her.
Yeah, it was really needed. Yes, we should have got it earlier. I know a lot of people saying that. Yes, we should have got it earlier, but
so the RWBY, they've teased for ages that they've wanted to get to a story they haven't gotten to, and they have to keep pushing back because there's more pressing matters. And
that's the thing, trying to fit it in with everything else in the series. Yeah. So I'm glad we got it. And I'm glad how it's tying in really nicely with what's happening at the moment. Yeah, sorry.
Since we got 14 episodes, since we're getting that break, it's it really feels like the perfect time to add in that kind of stuff.
Yep, before the mid-season finale.
And I think this is also nice too, because I feel like the fact that we took this long to get a backstory should be pretty good confirmation that Cinder isn't dying anytime soon. She's not going away. I think she will be here at the end of the show, whether she dies or not. But I think it's kind of like a lot of people have seen this and thought, oh, well now... Oh great, they've shown us this, now they're going to kill her off, or now they're going to redeem her. And I don't think either. I think this is a good way of saying, oh, here's this character we've known for so long, she's gotten so boring. Okay, finally, then here's your backstory. So now that by the time we get to the end of the series, it's kind of like you have that point of where you got reinvigorated with the character. Because, you know, like people have said, like, you know, RWBY's character got stale, or certain characters got stale over the time.
Yeah.
So that's when you introduce, okay, well, here's this little nugget of information, you know,
to make the character a bit more interesting.
Like RWBY's
see him in a different light.
Like RWBY's character got quite boring, and then they introduced Maria, and then we finally got the Silver Eyes. We're still riding that train, you know, and eventually that will die out, and then we'll get Summer, and then we'll ride that train. You know?
We already got some teasers of Summer already, which is really good.
Some elements back for the characters, so that when you get bored of them, they can give them in, which is
keep the interest going.
Isn't the most satisfying thing when you're watching it. Yeah. But I think long term, I think it'll make these characters feel fresher for longer.
Yeah.
I think.
I think also because they're very restrained when it comes to time and fitting in things in the episodes as well. Yeah. So it's really difficult. So it's good that they can give us a little nuggets of information every now and then, just keep our interest going, but not taken away from everything else that's happening in the volume.
And there were so many references to just pieces of dialogue that called back to previous episodes, like obviously like the Without You I'm Nothing being the big one.
Yes, of course.
But one of the ones I found really, I almost wish they kind of played more on is when Cinder said to Rhodes that you can do whatever you want, kind of thing. I'm stuck here. I would have loved if she used the line, you can do what you want, you can go where you please, which is the same line that she used to Neo back last time. I would have loved to use that line. Because whenever I replay that scene in my head, I have her say that. That's what I hear. It's like, you can go what you want, you can do what you please, kind of thing. That would be a nice callback, but I still think the intention is there, or like you can still draw that connection.
Well, it's because too in that particular moment, Cinder was basically a slave. She was tired, she couldn't leave.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess also she could be feeling the same way about Salem. Salem's got this control over her, and that she's stuck and can't do what she wants to do. But leading into, of course, when we do get to see Cinder again, and the villains, we expected Mercury, of course, was going to do his own thing. He's not going to follow Cinder's orders anymore. That makes a lot of sense. It's interesting to see what Salem does have planned for him, as he says.
What I really like too is that in this scene, again talking about kind of reinvigorating the more modern Cinder. Obviously, you know, she felt we have our typical kind of reaction from Cinder when obviously Mercury, you know, it's like you don't care about her kind of thing. Stop pretending. You know, she gets visibly upset by that. Granted, in a very Cinder way. Which again can be interpreted a lot of different ways. Just frustration of Mercury, or like, you know, frustration with the comment or whatever. But I think more importantly is Cinder's reaction to when Mercury does leave her, betray her, kind of go stuff. Cinder looks visibly upset.
She does, as she realised, she's lost.
And again, it's probably, and again, you could definitely look at it as well. You know, she deserved that. She deserved to be betrayed. She deserved to be kind of left behind. But it's still satisfying to see Cinder in that way of like, you know. While she treats her, you know, she does treat her servants like crap, or at least from what we've seen. Maybe she doesn't, but from what we've interpreted, she does. To kind of see her kind of, and again, it's the whole thing about you can't control people by fear, you know, and that's the whole thing with the Faunus, and a similar thing with Cinder here, where, you know, she's always controlled people by fear. That's always kind of been her thing.
And I think that's because
now she realizes she can't do that.
She experienced that herself. Power. And I think when she took Emerald in originally, she probably saw a lot of herself in Emerald. 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
But she's also shallow in the sense, obviously, she got Emerald for a semblance, and the same reason she got Neo was for a semblance. So she is shallow in that regard, and that's why, while a lot of Cinder's feelings are understandable, and a lot of Cinder's feelings are like, you know, like I can sympathize with Cinder feeling upset. Also, it is all, at the end of the day, it does all come back to, you know, her actions, you know, her shallowness, her, you know, leading by fear and all that kind of stuff. It's all kind of deserved, but at the same time sympathetic. It's a really niche mix where they haven't done enough to redeem Cinder, but they've done enough, again, to make me sympathize for her, but still not feel like...
It was interesting too. I just had a thought when we had the flashback back in Volume 3 where Cinder did meet Emerald, and when Emerald was saying, oh, why do we have to have him along, referring to Mercury, and Cinder slaps Emerald and said, know your place. That also just made me think, of course, of Cinder's own experience. Well, you think she would have learned not to do that, but...
I think so, but there's so many real-world examples of, you know, pain begets pain, and, you know, it's a vicious cycle, you know.
She herself is becoming the madam without really realising, I guess, in a way.
I mean, again, the sheer fact that she retaliated against Madame in the way she did just proves that it's just a never-ending cycle, and that's what Rhodes saw, which we did skip over that. I wanted to jump back to that for a second, because my favourite part of the episode happens here, and also I wanted to ask a question.
Yeah.
So, when... and again, I love this. Again, I love so much this scene, the time skip, and like the clock about to strike midnight and he walks in and stuff. I love that you can also see as the years go on, like he visually gets like more scarred and kind of beaten up, being a huntsman and stuff. It was a nice detail. We also jump in, stepsisters are dead, and Cinder's there, kind of just absorbing the pain of Madame, and I love the line of without you I am nothing, but because of you I am everything. I love that. It's such
I am everything. It's so cool.
a nothing line.
Yeah.
But just the delivery, Jessica Negri.
I know
we've had some criticism of Jessica this volume. This episode, she nailed it.
She really did. Yeah.
Nailed it.
Absolutely.
And yes, so she does that, has that line, and I just love just the delusional, naive expression on her face.
Yeah,
and
when she
so
turns
happy,
to Rhodes.
delirious, and I just love that Rhodes makes the comment, which I'll get to in a second, and then you just see her, she still has that smile on her face for seconds and seconds and seconds, and just
then it
slowly
changes.
phases. Yeah. And that's my favourite moment of the volume so far. I just love that.
I love that. We've mentioned it before, but all the expressions, the facial expressions that we had this volume have been so good, and that was definitely one of them.
So the question I wanted to ask, when Rhodes makes the comment of, and that's all you'll ever do.
Yep, running, referencing to running. Yep.
Well, that's the thing. I feel like it can be taken a few ways.
Okay.
Because I feel like it can be taken of, and that's all you'll ever do, as in that's the last thing you'll ever do. Like I said, I'm going to kill you, kind of thing.
I think he had the feeling that
or it can be interpreted as like, you know, and there's a cycle, and that's all you'll ever continue to do over and over again.
Yeah, I got more the latter, because
I agree. I just like looking at it in that sense of it could have been like as a threat. The cycle ends here.
Yeah, well, I got the feeling like she says, "Oh, I don't have to run anymore," and Rose is like, "That's all you'll ever do." Yeah. And even though yes, he gets to fight her, he may have expected, part of me in his mind, he was going to die or at least get defeated, knocked out, possibly. But I think it's more the fact to Cinder, because she's done this act with killing these people, she's always going to be on the run. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Again, it just goes to the idea of
he was trying to teach him not to do that, because he said even at the start, like, you won't get anything from hurting them. Yeah. Yeah,
because like Cinderella runs away from the ball when it starts midnight. I guess. Like,
true.
Like,
yeah.
I guess this idea like she stays. I guess.
Yeah.
And kind of like an interpretation of in that sense. No, I 100% agree. It's him stating that.
Yeah.
This proves that you won't change. Yeah. This proves no matter what I do, and the cycle must end here.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I agree that his intention wasn't to kill her. Obviously, we saw he was, he disarmed himself at the end of the fight. But I loved, again, it's one of the things. It's a casualty of the situation we're in. We're not going to get super massive, crazy, awesome fights. But for what we got, I really liked it.
I really liked it.
Neat, small fight, but it felt really well. And some of the choreography of like Cinder blocking the bullet and throwing the dust bag, or I guess saying dust in that sense.
I'm not sure what it wasn't dust.
Like the flower bag. That probably makes more sense. Like she blocks it with the blade, throws the flower, grabs the other sword. I love his weapons too. He has the like the mace guns. Very similar to Carden.
Yeah.
Obviously he had the dust mace. And this,
they were cool. And the music was just so good in this whole section. I loved it so much.
And then obviously, I remember I got a comment early in the week of people saying, like the aura, like this is weak in these scenes. And I could interpret it two ways. One, he's just, clearly this is where, whenever he's in Atlas, this is where he comes, or he lives here, or whatever. So maybe he's just come back from a hunt, still recovering.
Possibly, yeah.
Old gentleman. Might take longer, or I like to look at it better. Maybe he just has a naturally weak aura, which just makes what he does and what he has done more impressive.
Yeah,
I like to look at it that way.
We've already got the feeling people have different sort of levels with their aura. Like we know John's got a lot,
has stuff. We haven't gone to that yet. God damn.
We might want to quickly skip over.
So I love that. Obviously, just disarms himself. Obviously, and Cinder's obviously young. She wouldn't have a strong aura at this point.
Yeah, she's still training.
Looks at the moon, kind of has this beautiful look at her. Then we said had the Emerald Cinder scene. We then move into again. We've said for years. I've said for years that I love the concept of I hate Ozpin because he has gotten so many children killed, and we got that finally confirmed that is.
That's why Hazel.
Yes, he hates him for the sister, but like the main thing, or at least the second most important thing, is the fact that he knows that Salem is immortal, can't be beaten, and yet Ozpin continually sends children to their death. And I love that that was an element that they addressed here. I love also this is the first scene where we got Oscar and Ozpin actually interacting with each other and seeing that they are similar souls and how they're similar. Because for so long,
similar.
We never. That's one of those things where in hindsight, I can't believe we've never gotten that before. We've never gotten the two kind of acting on the same level before. Like these
Yeah.
these are the people in the same situation discussing how to address it. I mean, that was so satisfying.
Yeah, it was.
Seeing them,
Yeah.
how they are like-minded.
Yeah.
And actually seeing how similar they are.
Mm.
But Hazel comes in, kicks ass. Oscar makes a fair point. He's going to go easy on me. If you're here, he's going to do it much worse.
But in the end, they actually had a bit of a chat, which was really cool.
Yeah, I love that Hazel was still, again, because we saw it back in Volume 5, we see that Hazel was still willing to talk and discuss and be, but he makes a lot of very good points. But as does Ozpin.
Yeah.
And also we got the first kind of tease of what is going to happen when she gets the 4 relics together. What is Salem's intention? Ozpin clearly knows. We don't. Yes, it could be the gods or it could be something else. We don't 100% know.
No. Either way, it's not good.
It was enough to prove that Hazel didn't. It was enough to prove that the lieutenants don't know what Salem's end goal is.
No.
Which obviously, we got that assumption back when Mercury mentioned in Volume 7, about in Volume 6, sorry, Jesus, that we'll get the whole world if we do what Salem asks.
Yeah,
and
we'll be lieutenants in her new world.
A lot of people
or
are
something
like,
like that.
dumb Mercury, and I'm like, no, that's fair. That's fair for him to assume that.
Yeah. Santa's trying to conquer the world, and by helping her, they will have sort of
We got proof here. There is more here. Ozpin is aware of it, but the others are not. But Salem, comes in and cocksblock just at the right time before Hazel kind of. The rest of the scene too, we get Hazel kind of not looking at Cinder, kind of looking away and kind of having shifty eyes, like he's having second thoughts. Which again, I don't think we'll see many of the lieutenants turn against Salem, but also we got Cinder possibly has the potential. I doubt she will, but she has the potential path. Hazel is probably one of the more likely ones to take that path.
Out of any of them.
Tyrion won't. How self-interest is this for him? Does he really care about Salem? I probably don't think so.
He really only cares about himself. I get that vibe with him.
But obviously enough to keep Salem informed. Obviously returning, but obviously because he wants to get out of prison. He won't do that
too. But at least he touched base with Tyrion. Yeah.
I think Watts is also aware that. I think Watts is pretty aware that he kind of had lost, and he kind of lost his worth.
Yeah.
So that's why he kind of felt he had to contact them to kind of be like, hey, like I did this thing.
Yeah.
Come get me because it's like he'd much
rather still doing your work, Salem.
He'd much rather be with Salem and be free than be in prison by Ironwood.
Especially when he knows what's about to come.
Yeah.
Like with all the Grim attacking.
We've got the Cinder kind of like being like hurt by Salem.
Yes.
And we've got this interesting moment where Salem. Again, I don't know. Is Salem genuine here? Is she just playing Cinder for her own?
I don't know. I found it very interesting as well.
Because a part of me thinks, as the fairy godmother, and again, Salem is as fallible as the gods are. If not more so. Salem can be wrong. Salem can have mistakes.
Absolutely.
And again, it's one of those things where, like, how much has Penny become the maiden kind of affected Salem's plan now that she knows that Watts has it under control. Now Salem's more willing. Again, a part of me doesn't want Salem. A part of me wants Salem to be genuine here and not just playing Cinder.
I also sort of see Salem as thinking, well, Cinder can be of use. We know now where the Winter Maiden is, and Maz will use her because she's probably going to go off after her anyway. So Maz will use her to get the end goal of getting the relic. And she does say, whether you get to her or my hound does first, either way, I'll get the staff. And that's what the end Salem wants.
She says, she says both. She says that, and she also says, either way, you'll get the power. So it's interesting to me that
true. You get the winter power, and I'll get my staff. Yeah, that's true.
So I'm wondering if that's a matter of because, like we speculated last week, because Salem, Cinder took some from Penny, she's linked to the power inherently. So no matter if the Hound destroys her or Cinder does, the power should, in theory, go to Cinder. But then how would Salem be aware of that? But we also know Salem has some sense of omnipresence because she obviously knew that Cinder was alive.
Yeah, true.
So Salem might have a sixth sense and kind of just have an understanding of the world. Or it might be because of the Grim Arm. That's why she knew since Cinder was alive.
Or she might have other Grim or agents as well keeping an eye out and knew she was alive. I don't know. There's a lot of different things.
I guess my idea of if the Hound destroys Penny, how does Salem know that the power would then go to Cinder? So I'm just curious if there's something. Again, she just knows that because Cinder took some of her power in the fight, she knows that, or if there's something if there's something we don't know of yet.
Not sure.
Because I'm quite interested in that regard. Which also, talk about giving the Hound an advantage. The Hound's going to go straight for... Well, no, because the Hound wouldn't know where she is. No, they're both going to go to Watts. And they'll both go to Penny. That's right. For some reason, I thought the Hound would already know where Penny was, but then why go get Watts? Because they're getting Watts to know where Penny is, so never mind.
Yeah.
So we get that, and I'm trying to think... where do we jump?
Oh, then we had...
we had the Aesops.
Winter and the Aesops, and of course they've... They heard John's message, and they're like, it's you.
Yeah, I don't remember if I've said this before, but I find Elm far more rude than Harriet.
Oh, yeah, she can be.
Why? I feel like Harriet, I expect, and Harriet, I understand why she's what she is.
But
Elm?
She is. Yeah, I thought she was like this gentle giant, Honora-esque kind of like character. No.
Yeah, I don't mind. It's just funny I see everyone rolling their eyes and hating Harriet. I'm sitting here like...
Elm still says some nasty things. They both were like... And I like how Winter sort of stopped them as well. Yeah. Just saying like, you are Atlas elite. Act like it.
It was interesting seeing... like obviously them seeing the Aesops again, Yang especially.
Yeah, it's you guys.
But seeing having Winter there is a very interesting dynamic. I'm curious where to go from there.
Of course, they were trying to say it's the Grim Weather, it's heading towards Mantle, and Harriet's like, where's Penny?
It was interesting too, because we obviously thought that it was going to be the Grim Death Pools or whatever. But it was more literally like a liquid sludge of Grim, because the fact that when you go to that shot, the river is empty.
Yeah.
It's not like an ever-flowing river. It's literally just a mass crawling across the ground like a worm or a snake almost. Like it has a start and an end.
Yeah.
Because by the time we saw them, the river was gone because it was already piled up at the bottom of Mantle and about to shoot up.
Yeah, it's a geyser. I was calling it Grim Sludge in my reaction because I wasn't sure what else to call it. So it's like Grim Sludge.
It was much more like a sludge than like a liquid. It was much more.
Yeah, it was like a goo and it was gross.
Jumps up, and obviously that essence of destruction would easily, if it's going to kill someone in an instant, it's going to burn through a Hobart shield. Does that, gets to the city, and it's so funny because we look back in episode 4, you see all these sentinels everywhere. And I'm like, and we were saying at the time, man, I hate to go digging or go anywhere in Atlas because the fucking sentinel can pop out of the ground at any point. And I'm thinking, man, how much, I'm trying to think of the right word here. How much, geological scanning did they have to do before they lifted Atlas up to the ground to make sure there were no sentinels?
No sentinels inside the rock.
That would be terrifying. And it is, because that's what's happening right now. All the sentinels are basically burrowing into Atlas. And, the military, shooting down as much as they can, but once they get inside the crust,
rock,
that's what going to do, and they can, basically make the shield generators fall from the side, basically by breaking them from the earth.
Yep, that was a really cool moment, seeing that shield sort of come apart, and
again, it's one of those things where I don't blame Ironwood. A lot of people have called him stupid and dumb and all this stuff, and I'm like, how do you predict this? How do you expect this? Sure, you can criticize what's sure, fine, that's fair. I don't, but I understand you can. That's fair. But I don't blame Ironwood for this necessarily.
No, this was sort of out of the blue
together.
But then you think
this would have been stopped
if he actually had gone his way and lifted Atlas up. Yeah, there's possibility this wouldn't have happened, and it would just attack Mantle. But now both Atlas and Mantle are doomed. So.
So again, that's why I think where a lot of people are looking at this and blaming Ironwood, I'm looking at this and just thinking the whole situation sucks. I'm not blaming anyone.
They couldn't anticipate that was going to happen, but it now looks like Atlas is going to fall and Mantle be destroyed. So both are going to be destroyed rather than just one, potentially.
It's interesting if that's the intent. Yeah, what necessarily if it's just to invade Atlas, just because it was still to get to the vault, which I assume the point is to get to the vault. And therefore, when Cinder gets the power, or she can arrive without obstacle, basically. And then we get the Salem. It's time, and the Grim,
and the Grim, and the whale just lands on it.
And I think, and in that mass, you see. I'm trying to think. You see almost every Grim. The only Grims you don't see, Deathstalker, and Nevermore. You also don't see Knuckle V or the Wyvern. You don't see anything.
I know someone pointed out that it looked like an apathy in there, possibly. There's
a Borbotusk, a Manticore. a Beowulf, a Ursa, a Trex, or whatever they were called. I can't remember what their names were. I think it's Trex, but I can't remember. The pterodactyl.
Oh, the pterodactyl, yeah.
And I think that was it. But yeah, there was a lot of different Grim types there, which is cool because because obviously the whole thing about Grim from place to place, you don't see many repeating Grim, but because these are spawned directly from that, we'll get to see a lot of the older Grim again, which would be really refreshing.
Which would be good, yeah. And the sludge just being in the whale's mouth, of course, makes a lot of sense.
Ugh.
It's gross.
The animation, it was like, ugh, it almost looked like it was a. Yeah, like it was interesting to see, like, because I think the fact that it was like, it seemed like it maybe was a bit more low poly or low res than other water physics we've seen. But I think that almost worked. That almost made it.
It was sort of like, yeah.
It kind of worked to the advantage of it's like, oh, I just didn't like, because obviously like it wouldn't be water, it'd be more like a solid liquid kind of thing, and just be like, oh, it was just gross, and all the Grim erupting.
It sort of reminds me of blood, but like
it's
almost dried up, sort of like
like blood when it goes like black, like it's much far and just it is gross. Thanks for that.
You're welcome. Well, we're probably good to wrap it up there, unless of course we've got any questions or anything else to cover.
Yes,
I think we covered most of it.
Sorry for the rush towards the end here. Obviously, Larissa has other duties she must attend to.
Yes.
So stick around here and watch the stream, or the
bootcast is also going at the moment.
Yeah, and if you're watching this in a VOD, go back and watch the next VOD because it'll be Larissa's stream. Yes, and if you remember, thank you everyone who's watching live. If you're commenting, etc. By the time you watch this on YouTube, this episode will be out on Rooster, so make sure to go watch that. And episode 7 will be released for first members. Stream. We won't be doing a stream next week.
Yes, yeah. So Corner of Remnant, we will be back in 2 weeks' time by the looks of it.
We'll be back on January 2nd.
On the 2nd,
just the mid-season finale.
Yeah, and because of Christmas, and then we'll be taking a few weeks, unless there's some other news that's sort of like announced at the time. We won't be back until February. Yeah,
February. I think it comes back on the 6th, so we'll be back on the
13th, which is my birthday.
and January 2nd will be my birthday.
Yes. So the next two Corner of Remnant podcasts will be on our birthdays.
Yes. Quite poetic. Quite ironic.
It's quite funny.
Quite coincidental.
Yes.
So thank you very much for watching. And if you're watching live, make sure to stick around for the next stream. And watching the VOD, thank you very much. And
on YouTube, this is going to be late on YouTube too because of my 12-hour stream. So
make sure to praise the Waifu and the Great One.
The Great One.
Yes.
And we will hail the Great One.
Well, and by the way, if you want a Great One, by the way, the Great One is on Cameo at the moment. If you want to get a Jen Brown Pyrenikos custom video, you can do that. That's an option. That's a choice. Yes, you can. I think there was one that came out recently of Pyrrha singing like a Christmas carol or something. But it was Jen Brown in full cosplay.
Awesome! Jen Brown's amazing. I have met her. She's great.
So thank you very much for watching, everyone, and we will see you in 2 weeks' time. And stick around for the next stream.
Yes, I'm going to go to my Be Right Back screen, which is over here somewhere. But yes, thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you all the next one.
Bye.
Bye.